Good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Sloan and I'm from Sydney, Australia. How are we all feeling today? How many sore heads do we have in the room? Who was out all night? Well, thank you for coming if you're out all night, I appreciate it. I've been asked to talk today about how to generate more colour business within our salons, and I want to share with you a couple of the techniques that I personally use in my business. Do you know, I have 2 salons in Sydney, and I work in one of them 40 hours a week behind the chair, cutting hair just like everybody else in this room does. I do my wages when I get home at night. I try to balance the stock, which never balances. Try to reconcile the bank statements and do all of those things that salon owners do every single week in our lives. I'm really fortunate that my salons are in 2 great suburbs of Sydney. One of them is in Lane Cove and one of them is in Sydney's CBD area called North Sydney. They're both very, very affluent areas, and I'm very, very fortunate to have appointment books that are usually fully booked most of the time. I'm very lucky. Let's hope it stays that way. But I also realised doing those many things that we do as salon owners, the wages, cutting hair, looking after clients, that sometimes we can't do everything. And I'm the first to admit that I sometimes need help. And 7 years ago, I actually employed a PR company and a marketing company to work for me in my business. That was quite a turning point for me when it comes to dealing with social media. It was something that I wasn't strong at prior, and I've learned lots working in conjunction with a PR and marketing company. Together, we've come up with some really great concepts over the last few years, and I am going to share those with you. But it's funny, some of the ones that I've actually found that have been the most successful are things, or I shouldn't say things, are concepts we've come up with out of necessity. Trying to solve a problem within our salon, looking at decreasing services, looking at client retention, looking at problems that we're having on a daily basis in our salons. And interesting enough, those outcomes were actually some of our most profitable. Let's talk about our first topic we're going to talk about today. And it's going to be around balayage and ombre. In Australia, when we're talking about hair colour, the ombre trend, I'm referring to clients that like having darker roots, medium mid-lengths, and through to lighter ends. Some people call this balayage, some people call this ombre. Now, I would like you all to tell me who refers to that colouring technique as ombre in the room. Hands up, come on, who calls that ombre? Ombre, we have a couple of ombres over here. Who would call that technique balayage? So balayage, we've got probably a few more balayages. I'll try to keep calling it balayage for you guys. So we're all on the same wavelength though, right? We're talking about fading colour from dark through to light. This is an interesting one. Last summer, I sat down and I looked at the figures in my business, and I realised that our blonde clientele, the money that they were spending in my salon, was going this way. It had dramatically decreased. And when we look at what happened 2 years ago, balayage and ombre became the trend. Unfortunately for us salon owners, regrowths and dark roots became very cool. You know what's not cool? Our bank balances. We taught clients that it was cool to have darker roots and lighter ends, and they didn't need to come back and have their colour done as often. So instead of coming every 6 weeks to get rid of their dark roots and make them blonde again, they would go 12 weeks, 15 weeks, 3 months, 4 months even. And really simply, this has a devastating effect on our businesses. Really quickly, 2 years ago, our blonde clients would come into the salon every time their dark roots come through and would foil it back to blonde. I could guarantee that most of my blonde clients would come every 6 weeks to have their colour touched up. Nobody wanted black roots. If we look at this top line, we would charge, and I've worked this out on round figures for you, let's say a person comes into the salon and spends $300 dollars, euros, whatever you want to call it, 300 for a colour and cut and blow dry. Let's say 300. If my client came in every 6 weeks, that means they come in 9 times a year, and at $300 a visit, she spends $2,500 in my business. Woohoo! Hands up, I want $2,500 per client, thank you very much. And this drops really quickly. If a client comes every 8 weeks, it drops down to being 7 visits a year, and therefore she's only spending just over $2,000 a year. And worst of all, we want to jump down to our lovely balayage clients. They're coming every 4 months. And if you can have a little thing for me, picture back in your salon right now, everybody's got that hot, beautiful young lady with her beautiful balayage. You know who she is, she's your favourite client to do. Her balayage is perfect every time. Her girlfriends come in and they want that colour. How often does she come back and visit you for that? I can tell you it's 4 months. The average is 4 months for a balayage client to return to the salon. So my fabulous blonde client that used to come every 6 is now coming every 17 weeks to my business, still paying $300. And do you know what she spends a year? $900. So 2 years ago, she spent nearly $3,000. 2 years later, she's spending less than $1,000. Do you think that's affecting our businesses? Yeah. Do we think that our big blonde clientele, which were our money spinners, do we think most of them have now fallen into our 17-week category? Sadly, I think they all have. Unfortunately, we've done a great injustice to our business, and we need to think about how we can change that. We did this last summer. We had a massive, massive push on blondes. We won a promotion for 6 months in my salon. The campaign was called The Blondes Are Back. We used lots and lots of social media to promote this. Instagram, Facebook. We would boost those posts with sponsored paid boosts so that we appeared more often on people's feeds. And the one thing that we really tried to do when we look at these models, you can see in some of our old posts, the blondes are very, very varied. We've got honey blondes, we've got champagne blondes, we've got platinum blondes. We don't have a lot of girls with ombre hair. There's nobody with black roots. They were all designed to be back to classic blondes. We also did a decal on the front window of our Lane Cove salon. Are you ready for summer? Bring the blondes back. And here we did something very different. We actually used words that people use when they talk about blondes. Honey blonde, champagne blonde, golden blonde, ash blonde, latte blonde. We didn't use hairdressing jargon. We didn't talk about 10.1. We didn't talk about ash toners, pre-lifting and toning back. We use the words that the clients use. We use words that clients talk to their girlfriends. I don't like my colour, it's not blonde enough. I don't like my colour, it's red. Red, she's a level 10, do you know? Clients use these words, so we use those words back to them. And we put this on the front of our salon so that when people walked past or drove, they would see the words that we were talking about, and we actually left that on the window for 6 months. It went up prior to summer and through the full duration of the Australian summer. I might bring up one of our models now. We've started a girl going blonde, and we might see our first blonde model. Thank you. Now with our lovely model here today, we've done a couple of things that I actually would like to explain to you. Yes, we've taken our beautiful Spanish model, blonde. We've worked with tones that are very complementary to her skin colour. We've definitely talked about wheaty tones of blonde, honey golden, sun-kissed, and really tried to paint the picture of what we were doing to all these Spanish girls when we wanted to send them blondes. When we are talking about being blonde confident and promoting this trend to our staff, training is really important. And the conversation that we were having with our clients was about removing their ombre, taking the foils back up to the roots, all the way around the face and up to the scalp. I actually found this to be a really positive experience, and there are a lot of blondes in this room, and you know what blondes love? They like being blonde around their face. So unfortunately, when you see a lot of people with this ombre balayage feel, the darkest area often ends up around their eyes. Most blondes want to be blonde around their face, and the minute you start lightening their face up, their face pops again. So we would talk about this with our clients, and we would have team meetings just on consultation on how to use the right words to talk to clients. Of course, not every client wanted to go into having a full head of foils. How we came about that, and this is what we've done today for you as well, we would still recommend a full head of foils or a half head of foils, T-bar foils, whatever the wording you would use, and we would still lighten up 100% of the hair right to the scalp. What we would then do is we would tone that root area using Dia Light, very light shades like 7 and 8, always making sure that they were a couple of levels lighter than the model's natural hair. And the reason we do this is so that she walks out with her nice smoky feeling colour. Her highlights have gone from a level 7 or 8 through to our beautiful light blonde. She has the feeling of ombre, but you know what happens with every shampoo with that Dia Light? It lightens. So in 6 weeks' time, do you know what she has right up on her part line? Regrowth. Yes! And they come back in because they loved it last time and they want to do it again. And this isn't about tricking the client. It's about bringing colour back up around their face where it's most complementary. And it's also about bringing back a need to visit the salon. And that's why we're all in business at the end of the day, the need to be in business. I'm going to just give a little brush through. Turn around for me, see in the light. So you can see it definitely fades from a slightly deeper blonde through to a really nice light blonde. Just going to turn you around again and give that a comb through.